Hi, I'm so excited. I'm starting this new set of videos, uh, programming examples, and I hope you like them. I hope they get you started very quick, working on your project and answer your questions. So let's get going. This project, first example, is going to be on input output. So as you see, we are using C programming language. It is using the triplet.com online compiler IDE, so everyone can have a common interface so we can work all together. I'm starting with the main function, um, and I'm using the standard IO for now. So this will get us running for this project. As I always start, I am using a print at the beginning and print at the end of the execution, so I know when my program started and when it exits. If something went wrong, I know where it stopped. So let's run this quick and confirm I have a welcome to my app and exiting app. Good, so I know everything working perfect. And that's what I always tell my students. Don't start with a problem in your code. You have to make sure it is compiling and it's running. Good. What I'm trying to do right now is I'm going to highlight it in comments. So basically, we are going to ask user for inputs. And the inputs will be based on some questions. And the question will be answered by user by typing some information. Once you capture that and collect it into different data sets, we will be printing it to the screen. So now we can exercise the inputs from the user and outputs to the user in a form of output to the screen, to the console. One good thing to learn is how to use printf to output to the screen, to the console. Your information that you're presenting to the user is very important for communicating and awareness for the user to know how to use your app. Good. So as you see here, I like to print a message again to the screen to say the program started. But I want to show you another way of not doing that every single time and customizing it to your specific app. And what I did is I added a different def constant here, which it is a string. It's a array of characters. And what I used it for is the name of my application. So I'm calling it input output demo. So now, and instead of printing everything directly in my printf, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say welcome to, and I'm going to put the %s, and that tells me that I need to put another parameter, which will be my app name. Now, automatically, you can leave this always the same for any application you want, you're working on, and change that constant by putting your application name. And whenever you do it, guess what? It's going to always say, welcome to, and your application name, which is input output demo. Great. So this is one of the first trick, is to use printf with assigned parameters. You pass in it to the printf to make something different every time you do it. Okay, here we go. So my plan is to make a virtual database based on a user trying to register or input some information, personal information, to your program. Let's say he's or she is trying to register into your program, or you're trying to collect some data for an address book or something similar. So obviously my question will be printf, which I'm gonna prompt the user to enter a name to register. Okay, I'm gonna ask for an age, I'm gonna ask for address, add a birth date, and I'm prompting the user, I'm showing the user how or what format to enter it. And then I'm asking for a phone number. Very standard information in a lot of applications that collect user information. In return, for me to capture that, I'm using scanf. And scanf is very interesting. Scanf, it takes one parameter to tell the scanf what type of input you're expecting, and then that storage variable, where you want to store that information from the user. So if it's a string, obviously I need to have a char array to store this information. And that's basically what I have, except one here I have an age, which is a number. And there are all a lot of different variation of data input. So there is data input will be decimal, float numbers, strings, one character if you need to. So this exercise is only the string and the decimal input for scanf. As you see, my variables are not created yet. So let's create them. I will create all my inputs, all my variables, right in the beginning of my program. This way I can use them later. So I'm guessing for a username of 50 characters, that's good enough. You can change that to work with your input type or data type you're trying to store. I'm also using an address, like I mentioned, birth date. I treated it as a string or as a char array because, again, this is the format I'm expecting. Okay, and the phone number also as a char string because the phone number could have only numbers, or it could have a parenthesis, it could have dashes, and so on, space. So that's what I'm doing. As soon as I declared my variables here, as you see, all my red marks are gone. So now everything is good. I am able to prompt the user with a question, and then I'm going to capture the answer from the user. Let's try that and see what happens now. So here is my first output to the screen, welcome. And then I'm going to ask the user, enter your name. So I'm going to say Hisham Al-Sagir. Obviously, that's my name. I can't lie about that. My age, well, I'm going to lie about that. Let's put 50 for now. My address, well, address you expect number, main street, and then you're going to have a comma, and let's say Bristol, and then maybe city, and maybe like a 067, I don't know, 82. Okay, you expect all that. Okay, so let's put some type of 02, 5, 15, and I'm gonna put 1991, maybe. Okay, enter a phone number. Okay, I'm gonna put something like this. I'm gonna put this and dash and 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what I expect for a phone number. Okay, exit app because we're done. Okay, we captured all the information, no problem, but I did not see where this data went. So my next step, let's print this information. Okay, as we said, we got the information, we stored some data and variables. Let's print it. So what I did is I brought this in, and first thing I would do, hey, thank you for your registration, whatever message it could tell the user that you captured and hopefully stored whatever information. Okay, next, I am going to print my stored information. And here is a trick. I'm printf, I'm using printf with a big string, and that string is what's going to show on the screen. And by inserting %s, just like we did with the scanf, you tell printf there will be some parameters somewhere of type string that I need to insert it in this spot. Okay, and then you could also insert \m, which is a return or a new line. For the next system, it will start over a new line. Now, if you look here, I'm directing printf to have a string, a decimal number, and another string, another string, another string. After that, I have a comma, and I'm passing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different variables, and the all type string, except this one is a type of integer. Okay, very nice. Let's go for it and see how it works. Let's do it again. Let's say 50, and then address, let's say 12, North Main Street, Bristol, CT 0672, maybe, and then this one's 02, 15, 1991, and then I'm going to say phone number, okay, here's the phone number. If I press enter, I should see now, thank you for your registration, and here's my information. Okay, let's see, all right, I see it. If I press enter, I should see now, thank you for your registration, and here is my information. Okay, let's see. All right, I see it. So now you have thank you for your registration. I have the username, my name, the age is correct. Your address is 12 North Main Street, comma, Bristol, comma, CT0. So that's why I have it as a string, because it has a combination of a big address, different alphanumeric characters. Again, the birth date, it has numeric and other characters stored in this variable. The phone number did not work. Why? Because I have a space in here. So let's see what happened here. Very interesting. You have to pay attention of that. Your address, if you remember, the address that I scanned for is here. I was expecting, here is my address, and it has numbers, it has space, it has comma, and all the other stuff. So in my scanf, I instructed the scanf with a %s, telling scanf I'm going to have a string. However, scanf will stop as soon as it receives non-alphabetic character or alphanumeric character, which is a space, for example, or return. So unless you go here and instruct it to take everything except the new line, or basically the enter, it will not capture that. So what happened in the phone number, it took the 1, 2, 3, as you see here, and it found that space. It said, okay, I'm done. So now we have to fix this, and I'm gonna copy this part here. I'm gonna add it to the phone number because I have expectation the phone number will not be just numbers. How about the birth date? Well, the birth date better be in this format. You know, don't put a space in it, otherwise it will mess up things. Also, I did the same thing in a username. And username already captured my first space, my last, in one string or one character array, because I already instructed scanf to capture everything until you reach a return or a new line. Good. Let's try it one more time. So let's put the name. Wow, look what happened here. It didn't prompt me to enter my phone number, and it just jumped, it skipped it, and hit me right here. Phone number, it printed the question, but it did not prompted me to enter it. It went right away and printed everything, and of course my phone number is blank because I didn't enter it. Guess what? I have something here, that another secret, another trick, that you need to put a space before the percent and s in scanf, and that because when you enter information, for example, for your birth date, right? And you press enter, the scanf will capture the information and will not capture the enter when you press enter. Who's gonna capture the next scanf in line? So this scanf captured that you pressed enter and just run out of it. What we need to do is place a space, one space, and I like to do it always an enter key that came from before, or basically to flush your buffer, your keyboard buffer. Let's try it one more time. Here we go. We were able to enter a phone number, and my scanf with this new trick, by telling it to capture everything until you get a new line, worked. So now you can capture a phone number with numbers, spaces, and dashes. Also, the enter key, when I press the enter key after I enter in my address or my birth date field, did not affect the next scanf. Perfect, we got it. So with this quick example, we were able to practice and use inputs from scanf with multiple formats, and printf, which outputs to the screen again with multiple types of variables. Good. Great, we did a great job, very quick, and we have all what we need to know about printf and scanf. But here is my bonus. This is not the only input output in programming. You have input, output, standard input, output, keyboard, and screen or console. Yes, there is another one, to a file system, to your file system by reading from a file in your system, hard drive or somewhere, and writing to it. So what I'm going to do is add this include. The standard lib is used for file printf and file scanf and file gets. These are the functions or the calls we're going to make to handle a file in your file system. Okay, what I'm going to do is create a global variables. This global variable will be an integer and a file type variable, a variable of type file. This will handle be a pointer to our file on the file system. Okay, now I can use that and fopen, which is file open, and I'm gonna call it my file name that I want to use, and I'm gonna open it for write, and W stands for write. So you can open a file based on fopen. You can search it. You can open it for write. You can open it for read. You can open it for append instead of write, and you can open it for binary. Some of the ways you can open it. So let's call this my data. I want to call it data file, data.txt. Okay, now if the pointer is null, which means something went wrong, then I'm gonna exit and just gonna print an error. Now, how do we write to this file, to the actual file? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the same stuff I used in this code already, and I'm gonna use fprintf, not printf. Fprintf will handle a pointer to the file on your hard drive. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send a text, just like I did with printf, and I'm going to pass it a variable, some kind of constant, which in this case it's a def constant. And inside that string, I'm going to direct the fprintf with a parameter of type string. Okay, so now I'm doing writing to a file. Let's add some more. I added my welcome message to the print to the file. I printed it to the file. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to also go to my next print, and I'm going to print it to the file. And in this one here, I did exactly the same as printf. I'm going to print a string with some directives with the username and age and address. So I'm printing to the file with that pointer the same string with the same variable. This will allow me to do the same output twice, one to the screen and one to the file. And also, I want to print the thank you for registration. You know, its point is you can print whatever, whenever you want. I'm just giving you the example. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use the same format. Printf will take the string you see here and will print it to the screen. Printf will take the pointer, right, and a string to print to that pointer. And that's exactly the same. Now I have a little, I call it decoration. So I put 3 next new line, which is \n, 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 and this gives you a little space separation between the group of messages, and you will see it. So let's try that and print it and run it. Okay, I just entered the information again. So yeah, I bet a little difference variation here. So let's see, as soon as I press enter, you expect me to print everything to the screen and at the same time output the same information to the file. Let's press enter, and here is everything. I printed that name, age, address, birth date, and phone number, and exiting app. Okay, now guess what? We should have something new, and you will notice that under main.c you will find another file automatically just appeared, and we created that file. Remember, the file name was data.txt. Let's do something quick. I can say more, and it's data and tab. It will show that the file exists in the same folder as my executable. If I press enter, that's the test. Let's see what it has. So the program created a data.txt file. It printed welcome, and then it said thank you for registration, and it did display all the information that I entered. My name, 50, the same address, and this birth date, and I intentionally wanted to put 2020 in my input, and it's the right one, and that's the phone number, whatever that random phone number. Good. So we're good. We did great job outputting or writing to a text file on the hard drive. Now here's the trick. What can we do to read this information, because we want input and output? So what do you think? Let's add some more codes here. Okay, what I did, 2 new tricks. First one, when I run this program, I want to run it either to do this data entry and read from the user and save it to a file or to the screen, or I wanted to separate that and make the program only run this group of code. And what I did, I used f defined variable. If something is true, if this is true, it will execute whatever between f and else, right? And of course, it will skip whatever after else all the way to the end of. Okay, just like an if statement, but this is just a precompile instruction. So if true, the compiler will know that this is true. It will only compile this code into the executable. Now, if I change it and make this as false, the compiler, not in runtime, in pre-compiling, it will compile, it will skip that and go to the else and compile this segment of code. So good. Now I can control the output of my executable and the process in my executable. So my compiler, because I used a false, so this here will be always false, and it will do the else. I created a quick buffer because I'm going to read what's in whatever in my text file and put it into that buffer. Okay, and now let's open the file again because I didn't open it. Now there are other ways, and this time I'm going to open the file with a read only. Okay, so I'm going to read only. Now I could have opened the file for read and write, okay, or append and write, or different option, but I decided that I'm going to do them in two different open and close to my file. Okay, now if I open the file this way, and I have a pointer to it, again, if it's null, it means something went wrong and I should not be using it. Great, I'm going to scanf as we did with the regular input, but I'm going to use f. So fscanf will scan, will use a pointer, a file pointer, and scan for it and read some text from it. Okay, and then we can print it because I'm going to assign whatever I read to that buffer. Now I also am going to use the fgets and assign it to the file pointer. I'm going to store whatever I read into that buffer, and I'm going to do it twice. And this is here for a reason. I'm going to show you what the difference is, but of course we have to run it. So let's run it. You know, I already have, okay, you notice the problem is I have program.txt, the file I'm trying to open. That's why I get this error. Remember my file, I named it data.txt, and here is why I would have an error. Let's try one more time. So I open the file. It has one read, which is scanf. I read a buffer of type string, and I assigned it to the buffer. But guess what? I only have welcome out of that. Interesting, because when you use fscanf and assign it a string, it will read again everything until a alphanumeric character, like a space. And you know that there is a space after that. And when I used fgets, where I'm trying to read again, what it did, it continued reading from where I stopped last time. So basically I have a space, start to input output demo. That's the name of the program, right? Okay, so the first scanf, it did read that. The second one, it did read some spaces, and that is the problem. So I have 1 and 2. And basically, fgets, yes, it will read the whole line of text, but it will stop when it finds the new line. And I did that on purpose in my file when I created it, because now I'm gonna keep doing that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep doing that for a few times and run it again to see how it's gonna look. Okay, good, and that explains. I have fscanf, which reads as a string, an array of characters until a non-alphanumeric character, which is space. So I stopped at welcome and at that space. The next scan fgets here read the end, the whatever left inside that line. Good. And then I have few enter spaces that I left in my file. And then one of these started to read, thank you for registration. And then I read username, and that was the last two. So if I want to add more, I have to keep reading more, into that file. One thing I didn't add, and I should have added before, as you know, if I open a file on the system file, you need to close it. So I have to add fclose to that pointer because I don't want to leave that file open, and that's not a good habit, basically. And it's not good if you try to access it again at the same time before you close it. It's going to give you an error. So I'm going to do that twice because I kind of have two different programs inside one program right now. Well, here we go. We have this bonus of how to read and write to a text file, and basically by using fprintf and fscanf, fgets, these calls will allow you to access a file with all different formats and all different read-write options. Thank you. I hope this was good, helpful, and leave feedback for me. Let me know what you think about it, and if any other things I can help with. Thank you. Enjoy.